السلام عليكم. أهلا بكم في معهد دمشق.
Assalamu alaikum. Kaifa halukum? La'allakum bikhair. So today, welcome to my Arabic verbs masterclass. So now we'll be learning about Arabic verbs. It was necessary so that you have been learning through the short stories, but the verbs are very necessary. Through this, you will be able to formulate how the verbs in Arabic are conjugated, and based on that, you will have a more advanced perspective to your learning journey. So, what I am presenting to you today is intended for beginners and intermediate learners of Arabic. So, this lesson is going to be essential and a very accessible introduction to Arabic verbs and grammar, and a very helpful for ongoing references. So, what I'm assuming is that you have the knowledge of Arabic script, as it's not possible to teach the script, the writing within this parameter now. And however, I'll be including some of the transliteration so that those of you who cannot read Arabic at the moment can have this can be able to read what I mean during my lectures. So the key to understanding how Arabic grammar work is in its system. In its system of its roots. So the Arabic verbs are all represented by their roots. Once you understand how the roots work, you can then start to identify which of the root letters of the word are important and understand the patterns they produce. So you will be able to form the different structures and follow the patterns, and then use your knowledge to pronounce the words correctly and guess the meaning of that particular word. So if we begin by looking at some English words that you can see right here, they are necessary, unnecessary, necessitate, necessarily, necessity. So as a speaker of English, you can see that these words are connected in a meaning. You see the combination of the letters necess, and you know that this word is connected with the meaning of need. You can recognize the extra letters that are either prefixes or the suffixes. Yani, they are either at the beginning or either at the end of the word, giving an additional meaning to it. For example, an meaning not, and the ending et showing that the word is a noun, or the li at the end, that is showing that a word is an adverb, etc. So now have a look at these words. So this is kataba, which means he wrote. Then we have kitab, which means book. Then we have maktab, which means the office, or sometimes means the desk where the office work is done. Then we have yaktub, which means he writes. And then we have katib, which is the writer himself. So now you saw all these words. Are you able to pick some similarity in all these words? So they have a similarity, which is the three Arabic letters that appear in each of these words. Which is, you should be able to see these letters appear in all words, which is kaf, ta, and ba. Notice that these letters appear in a pattern. Now what you can see, you must have noticed that ka comes first, then ta, and finally the ba. These three letters in this order are the root. So root letter 1 is ka, root letter 2 is ta, and root letter 3 is ba. Sometimes there are letters as well as the root letters, but the root letters will always appear in the same sequence. So we have looked at the sequences kaf, ta, and ba, which is connected with the meaning of writing. Whenever you see a word with this root, it's probably has something to do with writing. The root letters mushroom into many different possible words. For example, when the root letters are put into a particular pattern with the letter meme at the front, the meaning process becomes maktab, which was a place of writing or a desk at an office. The vast majority of Arabic words contain three letters, as in the example above. Much of the Arabic grammar is connected with manipulating the three letters into different patterns. If you look back at the English words that we were discussing, that some of the changes take place at either the beginning of the word or at the end of the word. So, leaving the core untouched. Arabic, on the other hand, adds letters or combination of letters between the root letters as well on the beginning and end of the letter. Look at the word book, kitab. So we have an additional letter alif. We have the root letter 1 as ka, root letter 2 as ta, and root letter 3 as ba. As a symbol to represent these root letters of any word, Arabic grammar uses the letters fa'ala. So the word for office is maktab, which is the maf'al of the pattern. The root letters ma before them and a sakoon over the first root letter and a fatha over the second root letter. In the same way, the word kitab would be fi'ala, kitab fi'ala of the pattern, and kutub would be fu'ul, so of the pattern. In this first lesson, we will try to use the common words to illustrate the patterns. However, later on we will be introducing some examples such as using fa'ala. However, later we have introduced some more examples using fa'ala, and this is the convention understood most widely by both the native speakers and the Arabs themselves. You will find this root system very helpful, and once you've understood the concept introduced to you by some of the more common patterns, native Arab speakers have an instinctive understanding of how their language works. But as a learner, you will need to approach it more methodically. More methodically, you will need to approach it more appropriately. Soon you will begin to see the pattern and the shape of the words, and the structure of the language will become more apparent to you. And it is worth noting that usually how we use the Arabic dictionary, it is possible to put the Arabic in strict alphabetical order as we do in English, but this is becoming more common in the age of computerized alphabetization. So, however, the mostly used dictionary for learners uses a system based on the root letters of the word. This means that all of the words with same root letters are grouped together. You will need all words with the same root letters to find out the word which you look up in the dictionary. Arabic is relatively straightforward when it comes to tenses. Some languages have many tenses and are very specific about the time of an action, whether or not that action has been completed. Arabic grammar is vague about time, and there are only two basic tenses. One is past perfect tense, al-madi, and then we have the present or the imperfect tense, al-mudari. So, the past. In simple regular verb, the basic past tense will look like this. Kataba, he wrote. Shariba, he drank. Hamala, he carried. The three root letters are followed by a vowel. In most cases, this is all fatha. Kataba, hamala. Sometimes the second vowel is a kasra. Okay, fatha above, kasra beneath. So fatha, kataba, it's all fatha. Sha is a fatha, ri is a kasra, ba is a fatha. Sha, ri, ba. Sha, ri, ba. Kataba. Sha, ri, ba. So sometimes the second vowel is a kathara in case of shariba, and in the rare cases the second vowel is a dhamma. For example, we'll get to those examples moving forward. So dhamma has the sound u. So if we take off the final vowel, the huwa part of the verb, the third person masculine singular becomes the base or the stem of that past tense. Different endings can be added to this past tense depending on who is carrying out the action or the subject of the verb. So kataba means he wrote, and katab is the past stem. If we add the ending tu to it, it becomes katabtu, which means I wrote. Kataba means he wrote, katabtu means I wrote. And if we add a na at the end, it becomes katabna, which means we wrote. So now we'll be moving forward towards the table to give you a more proper understanding of what I mean. So for example, I have to say I wrote. We have the pronouns at one end, and then we have the ending, and then we have the example. For example, ana means I. So I wrote will add a tu at the end, and it will become katabtu. I wrote, ana katabtu. Anta means you, so we'll have an ending of ta, katabta, you wrote, for masculine. For feminine, we have anti. So we'll say it as ti at the end, katabti, you wrote. Then we have huwa, he wrote, kataba. Then we have hiya, she wrote. It will become katabat. Then we have the plurals. For example, nahnu means we, antum means you all, antunna means you all, but all ladies, all females. Then we have hum, which means they, and then we have hunna, which also means they. So katabna, we wrote. Katabtum, you all wrote. Katabtunna, which means you all wrote, but all feminine. Then we have hum, it becomes katabu, hum. Then we have hunna, it becomes katabna. Hunna means they, but all feminine. Please note that you will not meet or need the feminine plurals as often as the masculine plurals. This is because you only use the feminine plural if all the people in the group are female. If the group is mixed with male and female, the masculine is used. And therefore, the form that is most important to learn and become familiar in the first place is the masculine forms. There are also different endings for two people, the dual, which is antume and hume, to make it easier to absorb in the basics first, and as an explanation of the dual and its associate verb endings, we'll discuss that separately. You do not have to use the personal pronouns when you're talking. I notice most of my students, sometimes when they're learning, initially they make mistakes. They say ana katabtu. So ana is not you, is just for your understanding. When you say I wrote, you will not say ana katabtu. You will simply say katabtu. So if you see an Arabic sentence like this, كتبت رسالة لأمها. كتبت رسالة لأمها. She wrote a letter to her mother. You can tell that she is because of the ending of the verb كتبت. The sentence could be more specific and say exactly who wrote the letter. So now if you can see, we will add a name to it. كتبت فاطمة رسالة لأمها. Fatima wrote a letter to her mother. So notice that in Arabic, the subject Fatima usually comes after the verb wrote. So more explanation of it will come in the later lessons. Now we'll move towards the present form of the verb. The present is used for an action or a state that is still going on, it's not finished yet. Whereas the past is formed by adding endings to a stem. The present add letters on the beginning and end of different present stem to show the subject of the verb. Look first at the present verb next to you and identify the stem that appears throughout. So for example, we have أنا أكتب, أنت تكتب, أنت تكتبين, هو يكتب, هي تكتب. Please notice that anta and hiya have same words, تكتب. نحن نكتب, أنتم تكتبون, أنتن تكتبن, هم يكتبون, هن يكتبن. If you look at the table, you can see that the present stem which appears in the example is kutub. The three letters are ka, ta and ba, with no vowel after the first letter and damma after the second. The different letters added on the beginning and the end prefixes are arranged around the present stem like this. For example, yaktubun, so we have ya as the prefix, then we have kutub as the stem, then we have una as the suffix, and the word becomes yaktubuna. And we can apply the same principle to this word. Tajlisina. Ta is the prefix, jilis is the stem, ina is the suffix, so it becomes tajlisina, you are sitting. The present used for both continuous and the habitual action or the states, where in English we might use a different tense. For example, yal'ab al-atfal al-qura yawm al-jum'ah. The children play football on Friday. And then we have another sentence, yajlis sadiquka fi maq'adi. Your friend is sitting in my chair. As with the past, the vowel on the second root letter varies in the present. If the middle vowel on the past is a kasra, then it is usually changes to a fatha in the present. For example, shariba, he drank. So it becomes yashrabu. Shariba, yashrabu. Shariba means he drank, yashrabu means he drinks in the present. However, the majority of the verbs have fatha in the middle of the vowel of the past, and for those verbs there is no rule to follow in the present. If you need to know the vowel, you can look in some of the dictionaries where you will find the middle vowel written after the entry. Remember that in most cases the middle vowel will not affect the meaning of the text or your understanding of it. Most Arabic is written without vowels, and you will probably learn the more common middle vowels over time. Don't worry too much about in this respect. Native speakers will usually understand you as long as the root letters and the patterns are correct. Now we'll discuss some of the future tenses like this. If you want to talk about the future in Arabic, you also use the present tense, often with the word sawfa or with the prefix sa are added to the front of the verb to indicate the future. For example, سنذهب إلى المتحف المصري غدا. We are going to the Egyptian museum tomorrow. سوف يزرع الفلاح البطاطس في الخريف. The farmer will plant potatoes البطاطس in the fall في الخريف. So this was all from the first lecture. Now we'll discuss the summary of what we have discussed. So there are two basic tenses, the past and the present. The past is formed from three root letters with the fatha after the first root, a fatha or sometimes a kasra after the second letter, kataba, shariba. Endings are added to the stem to show the subject of the verb. The present stem is formed from three root letters with a vowel after the second, kutub, sharab, ejlis. So prefixes and sometimes also endings are added to the stem to show the subject of the verb. The future may be made by using saufa or sa to the present tense. So this is all from today. I hope you had a wonderful learning journey and you are gaining knowledge every day. It's a pleasure to be your teacher and I learn alongside you. So take care, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and I hope we'll be building a community of non-native Arabic speakers who speak like Arabs.